Hello, welcome to Retirement Your Way. I'm Debbi Marcum, and I would love to welcome my gorgeous co-host, Jaclyn Gladhill. How are you doing?
I am so good, Debbie. It's so great to see
Good.
you. I know we were off last week, and then next week we are also going to be off. So,
Yes, we
listeners
are.
and viewers, just to give you a little heads up, Debbie is going on a birthday trip next
Yes,
week, and so you are going to enjoy the sunshine, enjoy some much needed time off. But
yes,
we'll be back at it after that.
yes.
How are you doing? How was your last
I'm
week?
doing really well.
You had
It was lovely. It was lovely. I enjoyed visiting this amazing glamping site called Wild Stay in the Smoky Mountains. Some friends of ours just opened, and it is fascinating. It's just beautiful. So I'm so excited for them. But
well,
really enjoyed
and
that.
I just want to point out to our listeners and viewers that you said glamping. So, what
Glamping.
is that?
It is glamorous camping.
Okay. I love it.
It's a luxurious tent, which does not sound glamorous at all, but it is just beautiful and on the beautiful Douglas Lake, and I'm very excited for them.
Yes, yes. I consider like glamping, having a running toilet and like
Oh,
just I don't know, being able to have like the necessities and not have to sleep on the ground is kind of what I
this
assume.
goes beyond necessities. You have a gorgeous bathroom, tiled shower.
Oh,
Every tent has its own beautiful design and scent, and you know, king and queen size luxurious beds. So, I mean,
wow.
when I say glamorous tent, it really is amazing. It's beautiful.
So you're not sleeping on the ground.
Not sleeping on the ground at all. No.
Good. That's all that's important.
You feel a little spoiled when you go there, actually. I could live in one of these.
Yes. I mean, I think about like, renting a cabin or we call them cabins. I don't know what you guys call them or sometimes they're called cottages.
Yeah.
But renting a cabin or something up north would be fun and just go and kind of camp, but when it's not your own place, it's a trip, right?
Yes, it is.
Well, fantastic, Debbie. And I just want to give our introduction to our listeners and viewers before we dive in today. But this is Retirement Your Way. And so you can always give us a call, 1-866-247-5695, or visit the website at retirementsolutionsgroup.com. And Debbie, you are a financial advisor, and you can always find our past shows on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon Music. So, what are we going to be talking about today, Debbie?
It's not that it's my favorite topic, but it is one that concerns nearly over 70% of us after the age of 65. So I think it's essential that we have a discussion about it because we believe that it's always best to plan for the best and hope, plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Yes.
But today we're going to be talking about navigating nursing homes.
Wow. Okay. And that's a
Uh,
tricky solution, a tricky conversation to be had because
yes, it
sometimes
is.
people think it's a little, morbid in a way because, you're talking about the end of life when your life or your, I don't know, just quality of life isn't quite there. And so you're needing help. And I think for most
Yes.
people, the thought of needing help, we don't want that, right? We don't
No,
ever
we
want to
don't.
think about that we need help from other people. But there's so many different avenues that you can go down for long term care. But today we're just going to be focusing mainly on nursing home care because that's typically the most popular or the one that most people can see themselves, end up being in.
Well, I think it's also the one that people need the most help with. And I think
Yes.
just the topic intimidates people, but also if things are not going well, I think it can be intimidating, and especially if they're afraid to speak up. I've kind of
Mhm.
discovered over the years that a lot of people are afraid to speak up because they're afraid that they may take it out on the resident or the loved one
Mm.
that is in the nursing home. So I have a few suggestions for that. But this topic actually came from one of my dear friends and clients, and she pointed out. She said people need help with this, and unfortunately, her mother just passed away. So I think it was just very fresh in her mind of how things had progressed through it, plus how it ended. And I think she definitely advocated for her mother, which made her mother's quality of life much better. So I think the key is, really advocating for the person that you love. Your determined advocacy can make a difference between just going through the motions of nursing home care to actually having a high quality experience for the
Yeah.
resident.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you brought that up because I think a big point of this conversation is that, yes, we are talking about preparing yourself for the future, but when you are in that point, it's really comes down to your beneficiaries, your spouse
Yes.
or, your children because they are the ones that are going to need the most help at helping you. And so
Yes.
we're really talking about both situations and how you can ultimately help them, when it comes to
Yes.
that point. But in that situation, it's more going to land on your beneficiaries.
I agree. I think that's why it's so important to have these conversations well in advance.
Mhm.
Um, in all the years I've done this, I've only had one person say, "No, I want to go to a nursing home." The majority of people are, "I'm not going to a nursing home. I
Mhm.
don't want to go to a nursing home." So very, very few people choose that as, yes, this is what I wish to do. But too often you don't have a choice. For
Mhm.
example, if like my sister-in-law is 90 pounds, so if her husband came down with needing help, she could not physically help him. So
Mhm.
sometimes it's because of the physical, sometimes it's because you've fallen and broken a hip. There are extenuating circumstances that suddenly make a nursing home necessary. So I think it's
Yeah.
important that we have those discussions well in advance. I think
Yes.
it's a good idea to do homework in advance. If this happens, what
Mhm.
if? We often talk about, we need to plan for the what ifs in life. And I think nursing homes are a what if. And there
Mhm.
are good ones and there are bad ones. I would venture to say that most of us hear about the bad ones fairly often. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'd like to help people avoid that if all possible. So one of the first things that I think you can do is actually do research online before you even visit in person or before you have discussions with people. There's a really good website called Care Compare website, and it will show you nursing homes in your area. And then I would start talking to people. Talk to people in your church. Do you know someone who goes to nursing homes? Do you have any you recommend? Um, as that time comes closer, if a possibility, actually go and visit at sporadic times because it may be very different during lunch. It may look very active and, oh, everyone's involved versus, okay, what's going on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Are they giving them
Mhm.
activities? Are they keeping them engaged? So I think visits are definitely good, but I think you need to do your homework. I think you need to understand the home reform law because that made a huge difference in how nursing homes are required to manage and run themselves. And that's definitely something that you want to kind of keep in your back pocket of, okay, I
Mhm.
know what these laws are. Because too often, as I mentioned, we're intimidated. And so if you know what the laws are, if you'll go in and look at some of the typical problems that nursing homes have, I think that helps you know what to look for, also know what to advocate for. Nursing homes should not be a one size fits all. Even something
Mhm.
as simple as, okay, are you now expecting a night owl who's been a night owl for 80 years to suddenly get up at 6 o'clock in the morning? That's a
Mhm.
little unfair. They need to be able to maintain their own individuality
Mhm.
and not just a one size fits all, you know, kind of thing. So I think you also need to understand that the difference between Medicare and Medicaid, what those can provide for you, which is why I think it's important for retirees to have a financial advisor who specializes in senior care and retirement, because those are very different. And a good financial advisor can often help you navigate that to help get a nursing home, paid for. But it's especially important to understand that someone that is on Medicaid should not be receiving less care because of the way the bill is being paid.
Mm.
They deserve to have the same care that's given to the self-paying or the individual that has nursing home insurance. And that is actually part of the home reform law. So if they're using the excuse of, well, we don't get paid as much, that's their problem, not the
Mhm.
resident's problem. I've also seen it where when you are checking the person into a nursing home, too often a nursing home will ask the family member to sign off on being financially responsible. And that should never be done. You need to say no to that.
Mhm.
That is the resident's responsibility to make sure that it is paid. So
So
that's a
I
big
just
red
have a
flag.
yeah, I just have a question there. So Debbie, you mentioned nursing home insurance. What is that?
Yes. Nursing home insurance is an insurance that you've been paying for years and in all likelihood has continued to increase in cost, that will pay for a nursing home typically for a period of days. Sometimes it requires that you have been in there for so many days before it will start to kick in.
Mhm.
Sometimes it has an end date of, we will pay for 90 days, we will pay for. So every nursing home insurance policy is a little bit different. Uh, as I'm getting older, I'm noticing fewer and fewer people have nursing home insurance.
Yeah.
And that's because it started off relatively inexpensive and, it just increases in cost and people can't afford it anymore. Thankfully, there are other ways to help get a nursing home
Yeah.
paid.
And so I guess the question is how do you opt into that or how do you compare? Like is it through your medical insurance? Is it through work? I mean, how would you look at insurance?
Sometimes it is through work. I
Okay.
mean, sometimes, especially if you have a pension or something along that line, sometimes they will actually have, it's more of a life insurance nursing home kind of built in. I'm seeing fewer of those as well. One of the beautiful things about annuities, though, is they will be a great way to help pay for a nursing home, especially if there are several out there that will increase the income if a nursing home situation arises or long-term healthcare situation arises. So, that's one of the things that I love about those. That's a great way to pay for it.
Mhm.
But there are a lot of myths about Medicaid. And so, if you're with a financial advisor who's been trained on how to help get the nursing home bill paid through Medicaid, I would certainly suggest that. There are, not every financial advisor is proficient in that,
Mhm.
but one who specializes in senior care is really good at that. Often, it's very important to find a senior who specializes in a lawyer who specializes in senior care. That can be a great benefit as well. But there are a number of ways that you can help. And one of the myths is that you have to be poor to get a nursing home bill paid, and that's not true.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And there's different avenues and I mean, ultimately, do you know or can you just take a guess maybe, Debbie, how much do you think nursing home care is for a
Ooh,
year? I mean,
well, it varies from state to state.
mhm.
So, for example, for a Medicaid, you know, you're going to share a room. So it's a semi-private room. And
Mm.
over Tennessee, it's well over $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
So in the typical stay is 3 years. So, over $300,000 is certainly going to chip away, in your retirement money,
Yeah.
especially if you would like to leave things for your family. So I think it's very important that you do your homework and plan well in advance.
Mhm. Yes, yes, and especially if you're talking about maybe wanting a legacy or something to pass on to your
Yes.
heirs. I mean, you can get to that point of filing bankruptcy or, all
Hmm.
these sort of different things that many people do when they go into a nursing home or try to figure it out financially because it is a huge financial burden.
Yes, it is.
And it's all around it's 24/7 care. It's nurses that can administer medication and I mean it will really it's the life that you're living, the quality of life that you're living will be there. And
Yes.
so you truly sometimes and I rarely I mean I do often say this, but you get what you pay for sometimes.
Mhm.
And I hate to say that because it should never be that way with medical, but really do your research like you said, Debbie. Really do your
Yes, I
research,
agree.
talk to current residents. That's the huge
Yes.
one that I do recommend. And really talk to people that have experienced it. You know, if it's on Google reviews, try to
Hmm.
message them. If it's on,
I agree.
wherever, get the backstory and don't just look at a 5 star and say, "Oh, that's good enough for me." Like, get
That's
the
right.
backstory.
I agree.
Mhm.
So let's start at okay, you have now checked in and you're going to be a resident. Um,
Mhm.
I strongly encourage you to have your family with you because you need your
Mhm.
backup system there with you. And together, the nursing home and the resident and the family should come up with a care plan. And do not
Mm.
rely only on the nursing home to do that because you should have say in, in this care plan. That's the only way that family members often know whether it's being followed or not. And
Oh.
so I think it's very important that the family participates in that, and I think it needs to be in writing. Now, a nursing home is supposed to within 14 days have a have developed the care plan and put it in writing. So within 14 days, you
Mm.
should get that, and then it will be reviewed and annually. But it's not just a once a year thing. About every 30 days or so, they should be doing what is called a minimum data set. They'll call them MDSs. And you should be, getting updates on those. Is it being followed? Sometimes it's something as simple as okay, this particular person makes me very uncomfortable in taking care of me physically.
Mhm.
For example, if they need assistance bathing
Mhm.
and there is, a nurse there that makes you uncomfortable, you have the right to request to have someone, you know,
Mhm.
do that instead because the last thing you need to feel is violated.
Mhm.
And sometimes just having someone who doesn't understand that, I think that's very important. You
Mhm.
still need to maintain respect. You give them respect, they in return should give you respect. Don't be timid about it, don't
Mhm.
be afraid to ask for things. You have the right to ask for things.
Mhm.
And, I've been told far too often, I'm afraid if I complain, they're going to take it out on me. They're going to do something mean to me, or they're going to do something mean to my mother. Um, but it's your job to advocate for your family. And too often the residents themselves are afraid to.
Yes, and I'm so glad that you brought that up, Debbie, because, not only for listeners and viewers that maybe we're talking about you or you're putting yourself in the situation to be like, "Oh, I will be the one to go to a nursing home." But now I want to address the beneficiaries here and the
Hmm.
kids because kids visit your parents as much as you possibly can
Yes.
because you being there physically and being seen and being, that is the biggest form of advocacy that you can give to your parents because as
Yes.
soon as the people there that are like, oh yes, like they have a family, they are gonna keep me accountable, they're gonna
Hmm.
all that, go and visit as much as you can and also prioritize having your parents in a nursing home close to you and your location.
Yes. I agree. And if you're a member of a church and one of your church members goes to a nursing home, go visit them. You know,
Yes.
go find
Yes.
out. Go have lunch with them.
Mhm.
Do a little surprise visit. Make sure you're celebrating their birthdays. Too often, these people get left behind
Mhm.
and not visited. There are far too many people in nursing homes who never have a visitor,
Yeah.
and that breaks my heart. As a teacher, I used to take some of my students to nursing homes and we would visit. I think that benefited the kids, every
Mhm.
bit as much as it did the residents.
Mhm.
I have some wonderful clients who have pause and pray, and they take the dog in
Yes.
when it's allowed and visit them. So I think it's fantastic to continue to visit those. I think it makes us more compassionate as people. My
Mhm.
daughters have often thanked me for I didn't demand that they be servers, but I highly recommended that they be servers when they were growing up. And
Mhm.
as adult women now in their 30s, they have thanked me for that because it made them
Yeah.
more appreciative of good service and knowing how to treat people. So I think visiting that as a young kid, visiting a nursing home as a young kid can make you a little bit more compassionate and understanding. And
Mhm.
plus, hearing some of the stories, ask them about their childhood,
Yeah.
ask them, about their favorite pets growing up. Have those discussions with them. I think that's important. Um, but along with the services that they need to, some of the biggest complaints is, okay, they're using physical restraints, and they cannot do that without the resident's permission.
Mhm.
And sometimes using physical restraints can actually physically harm the resident because it's not
Mhm.
done correctly. Even if they're using the excuse of, I need to restrain them into the chair because they fall out of the chair too easily. While that is true, too often it cannot be put on correctly and can cause breathing issues or bruising issues.
Mm.
I know my mother bruised very easily, the older she got. And so you have to be able to give someone permission before
Mhm.
physical restraints are used. So, if a nursing home says, yeah, we have to do this, no, they do not. They have to have your permission
Mhm.
before they do that. If they are, you need to file a formal complaint. In fact, any complaints that you have that are, beyond just frivolous, complaints,
Mhm.
put those in writing and require an answer in writing. Because you need to document all of these things. If you find that they are not helping, you've gone to them and you're complaining, you've gone with various concerns, and they are not addressing them, then it is probably time to get you know a long-term care ombudsman involved, and
Mhm.
they serve as an advocate for you. And so they're wonderful, and every community should have, their
Mhm.
ombudsmans that deal with all types of things, but deal with one that specifically deals with senior care, and they can be a great avenue for you. Another tip: if they tell you that we're going to evict you, you have to leave tomorrow.
Mhm.
That typically it's 30 days notice that they're supposed to give you. If they tell you, either because of non-payment or Medicaid is not paying on time, or you know we need this Medicaid bed, and or we have someone that's going to pay, we're going to
Mhm.
kick you out of the Medicaid bed. um, the first advice that I've been given by lawyers is tell them, don't leave. You have to have that advance notice. You also have the right to file an appeal. So take all of those avenues. But far too often, I've seen people intimidated by you have to leave tomorrow. You have to be out by day after tomorrow, and they have to give you advance notice of that. So the lawyers have told me, tell your clients not to leave. You know,
Mhm.
we need to fight this appeal.
Okay. Yeah, that's just some great advice, and honestly, that's a great avenue to go down. I really do think that
Mhm.
there's so many resources that are out there, but you just need to be willing to accept them, be willing to, go out and search for them, because there is help. And this is a
Yes.
really hard situation for everybody. It's emotionally draining, physically draining, all of it. But that's sometimes that's just how life goes. So it's
Hmm.
best to be prepared and know that you have options. You never want to be
I
put in a
agree.
situation where you're cornered against the wall. So just try to communicate as best you can. Try to get as many questions answered that you can, and be confident when you're making this choice.
Yeah. It's one of the most difficult decisions that a, a large majority of people have to
Mhm.
make, either for themselves or for their loved
Mhm.
ones. And, ask for help. Ask for your financial advisor's help with
Yeah.
this. For one thing, how do I pay for this?
Hmm.
That's a good financial advisor is the tool that's going to help you with that,
And I think the
especially if
best
you've planned well in advance.
Yes, well, and that's the best question is how do I prepare for this?
Hmm.
It's not maybe sometimes, I mean, worst comes to worst, you didn't prepare, but it's best to
Yeah.
prepare and have a plan going into it so then you're not working in crisis mode, right? We talk about that a lot on this podcast
Hmm.
about, when you're in crisis and you're emotionally like I have to make a choice, that you're
Yeah.
not being rational, you're not making the best choice for you. So preparing and planning for it gives you the most options.
I agree. That's
Mhm.
the difficult conversations that need to take place well in
Mhm.
advance.
Yes.
But, you know, even if it's the last minute, have that discussion, ask for help,
Mhm.
and be willing to accept it.
Mhm. Yes.
Nursing home, I've
And
seen
and if
some
you
lovely nursing homes. Yeah.
Mhm. Yes, I agree. And if you are a, child or beneficiary watching this and listening to it, I recommend talking to your parents. They probably feel just as maybe uncomfortable
Mhm.
as you do. But just bring it up and say, "Hey, I want the best for you and I want to be the best advocate for you. So how can I do that? What can I
Yeah.
provide for you and how do we go about doing this? Tell me your wishes. Tell me what you have planned so I can help best support you." So
Yes.
great conversations to be had. Debbie, why don't we remind our listeners how they can get a hold of you in case, they want to talk about a plan for themselves for their nursing home?
The best way is to call my office at 866-247-5695, and Andy will be more than happy to set up a free consultation with you. But you can also find me on my Facebook page, Retirement Solutions Group, or my website, Retirement Your Way is the podcast, but
Retirement
the name
Solutions Group.
Retirement Solutions Group Incorporated. They're
Yes.
redoing my website, so right now it's
Ooh, so we get to
it's
look at
being
a new
improved.
website eventually.
In the near future, we'll have a new and improved website, so
Well,
with lots of wonderful information on it.
yes. Well, that is perfect. All right, Debbie. Well, what a great episode. I know it's, one of those conversations that we don't like to have, but I'm so glad that you brought it up today. And I'm so glad that hopefully our listeners and viewers can walk away with something feeling like, okay, I'm going to have
Yes.
that conversation. I'm going to start. I'm going to ask the questions. Whatever you can do. So thank you, Debbie. And that does
Thank
it
you.
for this episode of Retirement Your Way with our host, Debbie Marcum.